Something unsettling is happening in our schools. It's not just about homework woes or cafeteria food complaints. We're talking about a surge in something far more insidious. Misogyny and racism. These aren't just abstract concepts, they're lived experiences for many students and educators. Social media acts like a megaphone, amplifying hateful rhetoric. Influential figures, some with more followers than brain cells, spew toxicity that seeps into young minds. The result? A breeding ground for prejudice within the supposed safe havens of our educational institutions. This isn't about kids being kids or dismissing these issues as mere growing pains. We're talking about a generation at risk, bombarded with distorted worldviews that perpetuate harmful stereotypes. Imagine being a young girl and hearing your male classmates parrot the vile pronouncements of online gurus, reducing women to objects and normalizing violence. This is the reality in many schools today, a toxic blend of adolescent angst and internet-fueled hate. The statistics are alarming. A study by PBS found a 4,600% increase in misogynistic language on X post a certain election. Let that sink in for a moment. 4,600%. That's not a typo, and it's not something we can afford to ignore. This online vitriol has real-world consequences, manifesting in schools through bullying, harassment, and even violence. It's time to acknowledge the elephant in the classroom. Hate has found a new playground, and the consequences are far-reaching. Social media, for all its touted benefits, has morphed into a double-edged sword. Platforms like X, with its penchant for prioritizing engagement over ethics, have become breeding grounds for hate speech. Algorithms, those invisible puppet masters of the internet, prioritize content that generates clicks and shares, often at the expense of truth and decency. The result? A vicious cycle where the most outrageous, often hateful content rises to the top, feeding a generation a steady diet of bigotry. Enter the Andrew Tates of the world, self-proclaimed alpha males peddling a toxic cocktail of misogyny and violence. Their online empires are built on exploiting male insecurity, brainwashing young boys with dangerous rhetoric. The message? Women are the enemy. Traditional masculinity is under attack, and violence is the answer. This isn't just locker room talk, it's a calculated assault on gender equality, and its impact is being felt in classrooms worldwide. Schools, once considered havens from the harsh realities of the world, are now grappling with the fallout. A BBC report found that over half of school staff have observed changes in student behavior linked to sexist online content. Boys are increasingly engaging in violent and misogynistic conversations, normalizing aggression and objectification. Girls, on the other hand, are often subjected to harassment and discrimination. Their voices silenced in an environment where toxic masculinity reigns supreme. The lines between the online and offline worlds have blurred, with social media's toxic sludge seeping into the hallways of our schools. The result is a generation at risk, their values warped by a constant barrage of hate and misinformation. We can't afford to stand by and watch as this digital wildfire engulfs our educational institutions. While the impact of online hate on students is undeniable, let's not forget those on the front lines of this battle, our teachers, tasked with not only educating but also safeguarding young minds. Educators are increasingly finding themselves ill-equipped to deal with the rise of misogyny and racism in their classrooms. Imagine trying to teach Shakespeare while simultaneously navigating a minefield of sexist comments and online harassment spilling over from the digital realm. The statistics are sobering. A Unison survey found that a quarter of secondary school support staff had witnessed sexual harassment within the past 5 years, with 1 in 10 female staff members experiencing it firsthand. Female teachers have reported instances of sexual assault by pupils, often with minimal consequences for the perpetrators. This normalization of abuse and the blatant disregard for the safety and well-being of educators is abhorrent and demands immediate attention. Teachers, already grappling with increasing workloads and dwindling resources, are now expected to act as therapists, social workers, and digital detectives, all while trying to deliver a decent education. They are expected to combat the insidious influence of online hate, often without adequate training or support. This is not only an unreasonable expectation, but also a dangerous one, putting both students and educators at risk. The mental health toll on teachers is undeniable. The constant exposure to hateful rhetoric, the pressure to address complex social issues, and the lack of adequate support are taking their toll. We are witnessing a mass exodus of talented educators leaving the profession, disillusioned and burnt out. This is not just an education crisis, it's a societal crisis, and we must act now to protect those tasked with shaping the minds of future generations. The situation is dire, but it's not hopeless. Combating the rise of misogyny and racism in schools requires a multi-pronged approach, a collective effort from educators, parents, policymakers, and social media companies themselves. Silence is not an option. We must act decisively and strategically to dismantle this edifice of hate. First and foremost, we need to equip our educators with the tools and resources to combat this new wave of prejudice. Comprehensive training programs on identifying and addressing online hate speech, fostering inclusive classrooms, and promoting digital literacy are crucial. Schools need to create safe spaces for open dialogue where students feel empowered to challenge harmful stereotypes and engage in respectful debate. Social media companies, those architects of the digital public square, must be held accountable for the role they play in amplifying hate speech. Their algorithms, designed to maximize engagement, often at the expense of ethical considerations, need a serious overhaul. Transparency, accountability, and a genuine commitment to curbing the spread of hate speech are paramount. Finally, we need to address the root causes of misogyny and racism, tackling the systemic inequalities that continue to plague our societies. This requires a fundamental shift in attitudes and beliefs, a commitment to dismantling the structures that perpetuate discrimination and prejudice. Education is key, but it must be coupled with social and economic justice, creating a society where all individuals feel valued, respected, and empowered. The task ahead is daunting, but the stakes are too high to ignore. We owe it to our children, our educators, and ourselves to reclaim our schools as safe havens for learning, growth, and equality. The time for complacency is over. The time for action is now. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.